Tubers, tubettes, the ever-widening circle of crazy people. Today I'm going to try to do, hopefully, the final video about Expat John Harper. And this is basically going to be an update about his first 30 days in America. And I'm with my friend Jim here, who's going to help us kind of go through some of the steps. Jim stepped in kind of halfway through all of this. I worked with John, I think, for a total of 4 months. And about the last month and a half or so, Jim had arrived in the Philippines. He had been involved to some degree in America and then got involved here while in the Philippines. Am I recanting that right?
That's perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
Fair enough. And so Jim was very instrumental in doing a lot of the things, a lot of legwork stuff, such as getting John a ticket. Why don't you tell him?
Yeah, well, we got John a ticket to America, which was a little bit of ordeal. We'll probably get into that a little later. We got one from Dumaguete to Manila. Of course, the world famous snacks. I was helping him go get his snacks. So we spent about 3-4 hours one day, and we just got all the paperwork, the tickets, and stuff like that one day. The exit clearance, so yeah, part of that, and then just some moral support over here. And drank a lot of coffee with John.
Right.
So it was good. It was good.
Yeah. So for 4 months, a community formed over the 4 months since I did the original video, and there was a lot of assistance provided both here in Dumaguete and the Philippines and back home in America. And John was very reticent to go back to the States. And there was only a limited amount of funds to help him with. We got him an apartment. We got him a hotel room for a while. We put his kids in the hospital when they got sick, and we handled that. And then we were maintaining his rent and some food and other essentials. But we let him know that there was a timeline on it. We kept urging him to go home before we didn't have the money to pay for that, the plane ticket, etc. And kind of last minute, he agreed to it. I think
it was getting down to the wire, Paul.
It was. We gave him a deadline, and so that took about a month, really, for him to come to that conclusion. And at the end, we actually had to put in some more of our own funds just to purchase the ticket and make that happen. So I thank Jim and Roy and those that all contributed. We have a letter here also from John that he wants us to read to all those that helped. But let's jump into the update. John has been, well, first of all, John left a month ago, 30 days ago to today's date, and got on the plane. It was about a 32-hour flight. We actually had trepidation that he would actually follow through and get all the way there. We were almost scared that he would skip out on us.
Didn't I win the bet?
Yeah, you did win the bet. You did win the bet.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, and so we had fantasies because people were saying, "What if this guy bails?" And it put doubt in my mind. And I thought, "What if this guy gets to Manila and changes his mind and just scoots out?" But he didn't. So it was all just that. It was just garbage in my head that had been filtered in. And so once he arrived in America, the cool thing is that the support group that was formed for him was not only here in little sleepy Dumaguete, but also back in the States. He had a welcoming party of 3 guys that picked him up at the airport. They had prepaid for a room in a boarding house sort of situation with 3 or 4 other men. And he still occupies that to this day. Within the first, I think for about 48 hours, they just kind of left him alone because of jet lag and travel and all that, and let him sleep and get some food. They gave him some supplies. They gave him just various stuff, basically.
One of those big boxes full of stuff. Crackers, toothpaste, whatever.
Snacks, toothpaste, all the essential stuff, because he literally went over there with just a bag of old clothes, and that was it. So within the first 3 days, one of the gentlemen that was helping, Roy, took John around and got him a bank account, got him what else?
They went around to some of the temporary agencies.
They went to some
I think they would stop at the post office, got that all set up.
So they set him up with a change of address, a checking account, driver's license application. He's still waiting for the actual license to come in the mail. He's been hooked up with some, what would you call it, some agencies over there, that food pantries, for example, employment agencies. He's going to go to the YMCA for like $8 or $9 a month. And the good news is he got a job within the first week of being there. So what he's doing now is he's working in a restaurant. He's working the kitchen area. He works about 30 to 32 hours per week. It's within walking distance. He also got a free bike from the Salvation Army or something like that. He got some clothing. He had some money in his pocket that the guys gave him when he arrived. And for the last 30 days, or 3 weeks basically, since he's been there, he's been diligently going to work. And his payday is today, but he won't get his check, I don't think, until
Saturday or something?
Monday or something in America. So it's Sunday here, so day after tomorrow, he'll actually get his check. Now that check, the majority of it was going to be dedicated to his rent. His portion of the rent on this boarding house room is about $350, I believe, plus some utilities. I don't want to get into his financial business and how much he makes and whatnot, but it was going to be enough to cover the rent and put some money in his pocket until the next check came, and that was about it. The good news is one of the charities there, if you will, I keep wanting to say Salvation Army, but I'm wrong. Is
it Father something?
Father something. It's one of the church deals. They actually, because he went there for their food pantry, they interviewed him. And lo and behold, they visited him at his home and that he's staying at and wrote him a check for his first month's rent. So that was huge news. Now, instead of the majority of his check being spent on rent and having just a little bit left over, he's going to have that full amount which he can bank. Now, John's priorities are as follows. He wants to stay on the job, and he is constantly searching online for better jobs, better paying jobs, more hours, etc. He is chomping at the bit to get that check in the bank so that he can send, I don't know what the amount is, but X amount of dollars to Diana and the kids every month. That's his number one priority. Before he does one thing for himself, he has said, I've got to take care of the kids. And we, in the support group, we have group chats with him all the time. We do remind him not to go overboard on that. And while, yes, it's important that Diana and the twins get taken care of, it's really important that he gets himself propped up and gets stronger and stronger each month, because then, you know, you can't give if you got nothing left. If you're a vessel and you're empty, you're like a gas tank out of gas. And so he needs a little gas in his tank, if you will, and a little cushion in the bank account. And no one here is going to let the kids or Diana starve, but John wants to pick up that ball and run with it. So we commend him for that. And that's essentially the update. I mean, I don't know how else or how more complicated we can make this. He's arrived in America. There's people there that hooked him up. They spent 2 or 3 days with him, possibly, again, driving him around, getting him his accounts, getting him familiar with the territory. He met his roommates. They're all fine so far. That remains to be seen, as any roommate situation is. He's constantly trying to find other jobs. I spoke with him this morning on the phone with a couple of other guys on the group. And he's a little excited because there's a really good paying job. It's a little further away. May entail him moving. So he understands the importance now of squirreling away as much money as humanly possible, so that if he has to pay a first and a last on a new place. The guys that paid for his rent and put some money in his pocket and did all these things made it perfectly clear to John, as I have, is that that's it. Okay, you're on your own, fella. All right? So it's up to John, as it should be, to take care of himself. And so John wrote a letter to all the people that helped. He also wrote a letter personally to me, but I think that I'm going to keep that between me and John, just for personal reasons. But I'm going to paraphrase some of this because some of the diction and grammar is a little off. But this is what he wanted me to tell everyone that assisted him. He says, dear contributors, this is John Harper. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank each and every one of you who assisted and reached out to help me. Originally, it was designed to help me only to find myself and get back on my feet again. I was the one who tried to include Diana and the babies, which ruffled many feathers in the support group. I'll stop right there. What he's talking about is, as we were moving along with getting John organized in the beginning, getting him first into a hotel and then into an apartment, his kids got sick. And so they went into the hospital, and that took a big chunk of the funds that we had set aside for him. We didn't get ruffled, our feathers didn't get ruffled that we assisted the kids. Where it got ruffled, on my end at least, is that he was kind of slipping back into that barangay mentality. Would you agree, Jim?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like, hey, we're going to make this work for 18 months. I want to be here, you know.
Yeah, he was kind of getting sucked back into not thinking about himself, but trying to reacquaint himself, if you will, in the one thing that I thought sank him, which was the barangay deal. And no disrespect to Diana or her parents or people that live in that barangay. I just think it was a toxic mixture. So that's where I got a little upset. But anyway, he continues to say, I don't regret the decisions that were made. We can't look into the past, only the future. My heart is big, full of compassion and love, like many of you who assisted me. There are so many of you that it will be impossible to pay you all back. However, I am grateful for everything everyone did for me. I am truly a blessed man. I will do what many of you suggested. Go back to the United States, regroup, refresh, and then come back to the Philippines a happier man. Maybe one day I can help some of you by being a supportive man when you all need it most. Regards, John Harper. So that's John's thank you letter from him to you guys. I had to paraphrase a little bit on this because of the typos and whatnot, but that's the sum of it. What he wants to do is he wants to let you know that to anyone and everyone that supported him, either with their time, their talent, their treasures, or their comments that were supportive, that he is truly grateful. Jim, you got anything to add?
I was just going to say it's a hell of a story. I mean, it's a hell of a, from point A to this point here, he's kind of gone a long ways.
Yes.
You know? And believe it or not, I mean, he was ready to rock and roll after that jet lag clicked off. So I'm proud of him there. Mm-hmm. Just, last couple nights, a little nervous about the plane trip, this, that, and the other thing, but it worked out pretty good. It is what it is. I mean, the guy's been there 30 days and he's gotten this far. I think it's huge.
Yeah, I think it's pretty big that, he's working. He's got the bank account, the checking account, the driver's license. He's kind of gotten himself into the system again. When we chat with him, every time we talk to him, he seems a little brighter, a little more chipper, a little more resigned to the fact that he's going to be there for at least 15, 16 months. And you know what? There is light at the end of the tunnel. I told him today that it's like he's doing prison time. I said, if you were in the slammer right now, you'd have one date circled on your calendar, and that was the day of your release. And so that's kind of what he's doing, because he's dying to get back here to his girlfriend, dying to get back to his kids, dying to get back to the Philippines, and he's just doing time right now until his Social Security checks in. Now, to answer a couple of questions real quick, John had an average income, he told us one day, of $77,000 a year. And so his Social Security will be around $1,600, $1,700, $1,800, somewhere in that range. He's actually already contacted Social Security and has gotten that information. His profession was healthcare for about 15 years. In other words, he worked in a not a hospice, but elderly care, if you will, for about 15 years. He has, if you can believe this, a degree in finance. So he did go to college. He did work as not a financial analyst, but sort of like an accountant for a couple of companies. And people say, how can that be? This guy, can't hang on to two nickels. Let me gently remind you, he suffered a minimum of 2 major seizures and strokes. Once prior to coming out to the Philippines, and then he had a monster one while out here. And I've had 2 other friends, close friends of ours, that have had strokes, and unfortunately their mental capacity has diminished. One gentleman that I know doesn't know what a TV set is if he looks at it. He knows it's something, but he can't figure out what the name of it is. We're friends with Monty. I'm going to be interviewing Monty later. Monty's had a stroke, just like John did. And I asked Monty flat out, I said, has this affected your mental ability? He said, absolutely. I do not think as clearly as I did prior to the stroke. Because you've damaged a portion of your brain. Now, I'm not making excuses for John. He made a lot of bad decisions. Him and I went at it like you would, like stepbrothers, about all kinds of issues. But at the end of the day, you know what? He got on the plane. He accepted, not defeat, but he accepted resignation that he was going to have to leave his kids. He wasn't going to make it out here. He tried to work while he was out here. That's almost impossible to do for anybody.
But he did try.
But he did try.
He did try.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
One reason that Jim's here with me is Jim was super instrumental, especially the last 30 days, because I was getting burnt out and I was getting worn out between the channel and John, my own life, my own health, things that were going on. And there was a day that Jim just took John and put his ass on the back of his motorbike and went down and bought the ticket, went down, got the exit clearance. You did something else, I forget.
Yeah, Cebu Pacific, we got that ticket. And who knows, maybe we went to Robinson's for something. Or
okay, all right. So, because John was he's a major procrastinator, and Jim finally had enough of it and said, we got to make this happen now, bro, or we're going to be out of money in time. So, again, my hat's off to Jim for stepping up the last 30 days and just really being a soldier in all this. And we both would like to thank all the people that contributed, like I said, their time, their talent, their treasures, their comments, and their supports. The only possibility of any future videos about this topic before we bring it to a grinding halt is John said that maybe in 3 or 4 months he might want to do like a live chat with me where he's on the screen, talking live, not a video, none of that kind of stuff, and just bringing everybody else up to speed in his own words. So that's John's first 30 days in America. So far, it's okay. I think all of us are big enough boys and girls to know that the wheels can fall off at any time. They can fall off for me, they can fall off for you, they can fall off for John. But right now, we're just praying that everything stays status quo. So I want to thank those again from the bottom of my heart. John wants to thank you from the bottom of his heart. And that's all I got, kids.
Yeah,
Anything from you, Mr. Jim?
I think that really sums it up, but, he's there. We did it.
There.
I mean, everybody's done it. We got him there.
Yeah.
And I don't think you could write this up.
You can't make this stuff up, can
no,
you? I mean, truth is truly
it would never happen in my lifetime again to see something like
Me
this.
Me either. Truth is truly stranger than fiction. So anyway, thanks guys for joining in. And from Jim and myself, we'll see you in the next video.